Thank you, Jeevan. Hello, everybody. My name is Ibrahim Khatri, and I'm a co-founder at Privinside Solutions Private Limited, which is the data privacy compliance solution. I'm also a partner at Synnonical Consulting, which is a privacy consulting company. We are also IPP authorized training partners operating out of Mumbai. Um, so I'll just present my screen. So that's the name of our company, Privinside, which is a data privacy compliance solution. So what is data privacy? So before actually we deep dive into that, I'll give you a little bit more background about myself. We incorporated this company in 2018. Prior to that, I was associated with KPMG, EY, and PwC in the technology risk management space. And 2018, after implementing the GDPR program for the largest bank in Middle East, we incorporated this company, SaaS solution, to help companies comply with global data protection regulation. Now, what is privacy, right? And what are the types of privacy? So privacy, as defined by the UN in 1949, is the right to be left alone, and it's appropriate use of personal information under the circumstances. So primarily, we have about four kinds of privacy: information privacy, communication privacy, bodily, which is more about your health, and territorial privacy, which is more about your location and what have you. So data privacy or information privacy is more related to the handling of your personal data, of how organizations basically actually collect the data, they store your data, how they are deleting your data, how are they processing your data, how are they sharing your data with third parties, and so on and so forth, right? So, and with a huge focus on compliance and data protection regulations. As we all know that data is a highly, immensely valuable asset, right, which is prone to exposure and breaches. We have huge fines, reputational damage in millions of dollars based on which, depending upon which regulation the enterprise is comes under, right? So under GDPR, you have 4% of your revenue or $20 million, whichever is higher, is actually the fine for GDPR, which is General Data Protection Regulation, which is the first privacy regulation that came into effect 25th of May 2018. And data privacy, I mean, we can see that right now, currently, only 10% of the world population comes under some kind of a data protection regulation, but that's going to change, right, significantly. According to a recent study by IAPP, which is International Association of Privacy Professionals, by 2023, we're going to have 65% of the world population under some kind of a data protection regulation. These are some figures, right, from the breaches that have happened. So in the recent year, we saw 7,000 data breaches exposing 5.1 billion records, right? And 15 million people are basically impacted by the CCPA, which is the California Consumer Protection Act. Right now, very few states in the US have privacy regulation, but by the year 2022, we are talking about having a US federal privacy law. And GDPR, which is a European data protection regulation, has 500 million people as data subjects, right? The significant impact, financial cost, right, of non-compliance for a US company has been 8.19 million US dollars. These are again some numbers which gives you more information about the data breaches. These are the total number of data breaches that have been reported to the Data Protection Authority in Europe after this GDPR came into effect, which is May 25th until 27th of January. 77,000 breaches have been reported to their respective data protection authority, right? So you can see the number of breaches that are being reported right after a regulation comes into effect is really high. We have Netherlands at 66,000, United Kingdom at 30,000, Denmark at 18,000, and Ireland at 17,000. Now, the fines with respect to GDPR are also extremely high. We saw from the day GDPR basically got enacted on 25th of May, we have 69 million pounds, 69 million US dollars that have been fined to all corporations that have not complied with this regulation. Germany also at number two at 69 million. France at 54 million, and United Kingdom at 44 million, followed by Spain at 14 million. So we have a very similar law which is going to come into effect in India, which is the PDP bill. There's a lot of activity happening at the parliament at the moment, and hopefully we are thinking that it might be passed on in the week of 8th March next month. So that's the buzz around the parliament that it's currently under joint parliamentary discussion. And if this law comes into effect, it's basically very similar to the GDPR. It's probably 80 to 85% similar to the GDPR. The fines are also kind of similar. It's 2 to 4% of the total worldwide turnover, or 5 to 15 crores, whichever is higher. Right? Some of the key points of the Indian Personal Data Protection Bill is that all personal data, sensitive data, including children's data, needs to be obtained only with explicit consent. Right? Critical and sensitive data has to be stored only in India and should not be shipped out of India. We have to maintain, we have to have a data protection officer for maintaining your processing activities. And you have to have a copy of all the data. Foreign entities doing business in India will have to maintain one mirror copy in India, right? So this really raises the cost of compliance, right? Now, these are some of the challenges when somebody has to, when an organization starts their privacy compliance journey. Starting with data flow mapping, organizations actually need to have an inventory of all the PII, which is personal identifiable information that they are holding about customers within the organization. So whichever systems, applications, database, wherever PII is located, they are supposed to have an evergreen inventory of this personal information maintained at all times. The data subjects, data principals are given certain rights. I mean, today, after this law comes into effect, a data subject can basically go into a bank and ask them, give me all the information that you have about me. And the bank is supposed to provide you that information within 30 days in a machine readable format. Currently, not all organizations even know where all the personal information is, and this has to be basically be given within 30 days. So you need a strong workflow management system for that. We spoke about the data localization. We need a copy of all the transactions for a payment company to be stored in India. For a foreign bank, for example, if any bank is doing business in India, payment company is doing business in India, they have to keep a copy of that into India. Breach notification rules, in case there is a data privacy breach, data protection authority needs to be notified, as well as the data subject within a stipulated amount of time, which is 72 hours as of now, but we'll see how the law basically goes into effect. We have consent management, as we mentioned earlier, that you can only process personal data after you have consent from the data subject or the data principal, as the Indian PDP bill calls it. And for India, it's basically a huge challenge to basically implement something like that because of the lower literacy rates compared to the rest of the global leaders, and also basically because of so many different languages that we have. The sixth point is privacy governance also poses a huge challenge. since it basically cuts across various domains such as compliance, information security, IT, legal, and all your other core business functions as well. Now, what can these are the different departments within an organization, and what are some of the the things that are priority for each of the departments to do to basically comply with the data protection program. The privacy office, which is privacy and compliance, will basically deal with all your data subject requests, data principal requests, do an annual data protection impact assessment on all the processes that are dealing with high processing activities. Human resources basically have to basically train all their employees on data privacy, who are basically dealing with private data of individuals, and also basically employee agreements. Uh, Privacy needs to basically be the forefront in all product engineering, including privacy by design, cybersecurity assessments for cybersecurity departments. Marketing, the cookie and consent management is an extremely important part in marketing these days, and hence the marketing department needs to take explicit consent before placing cookies on the data subjects browsers. And also for marketing purposes, if they want to basically use analytical behavioral analytics, they need explicit consent for that. The legal will basically deal with all the relationships that they have with third party, including for basically, especially for data privacy itself, right? Procurement department also has deals with the third party relationship, dealing with the personal information. These are some of the building blocks of a privacy program management, starting with the governance structure. As I mentioned earlier, that privacy basically cuts across all the departments in the organization, which is from starting from your HR to legal, marketing, and IT, information security. So we need a strong, robust structure, holistic program, a governance structure that cuts across all these areas. We need to find out which are the applicable laws that our organization basically has comes under, which is GDPR or PDP, or maybe the Californian CCPA Act. Data assessments need to be done every year, right? So we need to have a record of processing activities first, and then basically do your data assessments on them annually. We need a robust policy and procedure framework, because we need explicit privacy policies and notices given to data principals. Security and privacy controls have to be embedded in throughout the organization, and monitoring of these controls. Training and awareness. Employees have to be trained on, employees who are basically dealing with personal information have to be trained annually. Data transfers, they have to have appropriate mechanism of data transfers, like encryption and similar, technology. Third party. So there's a concept of a controller and a processor in most of the privacy regulations, and how you basically share your data with your third party is basically the responsibility of the controller as well as the processor. You have to, set up a robust data breach incident plan, and basically you have to monitor all these 9 aspects on a regular basis. These are some of the aspects, like 3 aspects basically to run your complete data privacy program. For process, we have to completely redesign the process to entail data privacy in consideration. We have to give customer, control of their own data. They can request for the data. They can ask for deleting their data. Hence, we have to embed those processes where customers can basically control their data, and continuously monitoring of privacy controls. From a people perspective, there has to be accountability, contribution to privacy compliance, and training of all employees. Since this is an extremely complex proposition, the data privacy, it requires an architectural strategy, and also, a tool or a solution which is required usually from currently people are just using Excel and and those kind of spreadsheets. But going forward, when this law comes into effect into India, organizations will have to invest in solutions that will basically help them comply with these regulations. Um, Please feel free to contact me on LinkedIn or my phone number here. We have our implementation partner is Nigel, and feel free to contact them.